I first learned about the value of case studies when our manager, when I was working at American Express, shared a Harvard Business Review story about Benihana. Don't know if you've ever been to Benihana, but that's Len Penzo's favorite place to eat. He's over on our Stacking Benjamin show nearly every Friday. I also love Benihana, by the way. I won't lie. I'm like a 12-year-old kid. When they do that little choo-choo train thing, I'm all in. I think it's fantastic. But anyway, the case analysis of Benihana, first case analysis I'd ever done, showed a few things. Benihana's evolved over time from large restaurants to large bar areas. While other restaurants were busy turning tables, this is interesting, they actually deliberately slowed service for two reasons. Because of the experience factor of watching your meal be made in front of you. For those of you not familiar with Benihana experience, they chop it up and have the grill right in front of you, and it's delicious. Benihana, if you want to sponsor the show, more than happy to say great. I'm going to say great things about you anyway. But because of that show aspect, people are more likely to linger over drinks, appetizers, desserts, so they make more money on these high profit margin areas. And they also expanded their bar area, and you can always tell an old Benihana from a new one because older ones have these little tiny bar areas, and the new ones are anywhere from mid-sized to huge. Why? Because they make tons of money on the liquor sale, and people go there for the experience. If they're more likely to buy a drink, Benihana wants to let them. So what does this have to do with you and your money? You're wondering. Well, whether you're in business or not, there's lots of money management lessons inside following companies and how they do business. And I've found that when you treat your money like a business, you'll make far less emotional and far more sound business decisions. Think of yourself as if you're the CEO of your family's financial life. Live just in time for Ron to walk his dog. Hey, welcome to Money in the Morning, everybody. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. This show, Money in the Morning, is the place where we take not one, but two recent headlines in the popular press. We not only read them to you and tell you where to find some good news, but we also dissect them and talk about what it has to do with your money. And today, we're all about case studies and businesses. We're going to talk about mattresses. We're going to talk about the internet, and we're going to talk about your cash. Thanks to Lemonade for supporting Money in the Morning. Get Lemonade renter's insurance in seconds by heading to stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade. Or if you're watching, you can head there right now, stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade. With zero paperwork and zero brokers, getting homeowners quotes or a quote for renter's insurance couldn't be easier or faster. That's stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade. I use Lemonade for my own stuff. It was an amazingly quick process. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But today we got a couple great headlines, so let's get this party started, shall we?
Just when you thought the show couldn't possibly get better, it's time for your headlines.
That may be my favorite open. You know, we haven't said anything yet, haven't done anything, and yet Laura's all about just when you thought it couldn't get better. Well, it can. We can actually do what we promised we were going to do. We're going to do that right now. First headline comes to us, I believe, from CNN as soon as I get this open. Yep, CNN Business. This is written by Nathaniel Meyerson at CNN Business. How Casper drove mattress firm into bankruptcy. First, I didn't know what Mattress Firm was. It turns out Mattress Firm is a company. Maybe I should know that because this story is going to talk about how they're all over the U.S., but I generally don't think about my mattress places. Do you? And that's actually part of this story is you don't think about your mattress, which is how this segment of the market got disrupted. Let's walk through it. This piece, I already told you who it's by. It's by Nathaniel Meyerson. All right. Beds in a Box have brought the country's largest mattress retailer to its knees. Mattress firm filed for bankruptcy on Friday to escape hundreds of leases it could no longer afford in suburban shopping malls and on city streets. Mattress firm has more than 3,300 stores across the country, and it plans to quickly shutter 200 of them. By the end of the year, the company may close up to 500 more. Mattress firm's struggles have been in part self-inflicted. The company failed to recognize that its marketplace was moving online until it was too late. It misjudged what shoppers demanded, convenience and low prices, and ignored the threat digital upstarts like Casper posed to its grip on the industry. The company was constrained by its decision to buy retail chain Sleepy's in 2015 for $780 million. Instead of investing in digital tools and shipping infrastructure, Mattress firm expanded its store base at exactly the wrong moment. Quote, "This transformational acquisition unites the nation's two biggest mattress specialty retailers, providing customers with convenience, value, and choice," Mattress firm's chief executive Steve Stagner said at the time. But taking on more than 1,000 Sleepy stores left Mattress firm over-retailed. As store traffic slowed, costly leases turned into an albatross around Mattress firm's neck. In a Chapter 11 filing, Stanger said that his company had, quote, "too many locations in close proximity to each other." Mattress firm built out its stores as an effective online direct-to-consumer model began to emerge. Casper, as well as Tough and Needle, Lisa, Purple, and Yoga Bed, took advantage of retailers clinging to the status quo by offering shoppers a new solution for their bedding needs, shipping mattresses in a box to their homes for no added cost. Quote, "Traditional mattress retailers have been alienating customers for decades and are now buckling under pressure," Philip Krim, Casper's co-founder and CEO, said in an email. Casper's turned a tired industry on its head with innovative products and a superior shopping experience. Casper believed that shoppers have grown wary of the traditional mattress buying experience, going into a store, testing out a handful of mattresses for a few minutes, and rushing to a decision about an expensive item designed to last for years. Customers were also turned off by complicated and expensive delivery options. The company gained attention online, with customers posting viral videos of themselves unboxing mattresses, racking up $100 million in sales back in 2015. Casper distinguished its business by pricing the only mattress it sold at the time below traditional competitors, as well as offering free delivery and a 100-day trial period at home. Casper offered just 3 varieties of mattress, which gave it an advantage over stores that sold a confusing array of soft mattresses, firm, foam, springy, and everything in between. Quote, "Customers have long gone into traditional mattress stores feeling uninformed and have been subject to ridiculous price points," Bob Phibbs, a CEO of consultancy Retail Doctor, told CNN Business in August. Casper continued selling direct-to-consumer online, moving into bed frames, sheets, pillows, and dog mattresses, and it partnered with retailers like Nordstrom, Target, and West Elm to increase distribution. By the time Mattress firm launched its own bed-in-a-box brand, Tulo, in 2017, it was too deep in debt to escape its troubles. Goes on to say that the rise of online companies wasn't the only source of pressure on Mattress firm. Walmart has come out with its own brand, Allswell. Last week, Amazon debuted its own memory foam mattress under its Amazon Basics line. In addition, a top Mattress firm supplier, Tempur Sealy International, stopped selling to the company over a pricing dispute. And Mattress firm's parent company, Steinhoff International, has been bogged down with accounting woes that forced its CEO to resign last year. So then it goes on to talk about retail. Amazing story about mattresses, and it's fascinating because I never thought I'd be fascinated by mattresses. But this really caught my attention for a few reasons. Number one, not being on top of the market sounds a lot like the old days of VHS video, didn't it? And that whole Blockbuster story, Blockbuster just getting mowed under and not seeing it coming at all, thinking that Netflix was out of its mind and wasn't going to take market share, and didn't even see it until it was way too late. But the bigger thing is this, and the piece I think it's important for our money today is specifically one thing and one thing only, and that is your fixed cost. Check out how it was fixed costs that really sank the retailer. Mattress Firm had all of these brick and mortar stores. And I remember my early days of running a company, I was all impressed with myself, and I was going to buy a big office and get a big warehouse space. And a guy who'd been around the block in his 50s told me, he's like, control your fixed cost. And luckily, I didn't end up opening that office. I didn't end up moving into it. And it ended up being a phenomenal decision. But when I look at people's financial plan, sometimes they have too much house. Sometimes they have too much car. I know several people who have way bigger car payments than they should have. Getting rid of that car payment, making it smaller, much, much better way to go. And the house issue. I know your house is your castle and it's where you live. But if you're young enough to not make that bad decision and not fall into the trap that mortgage brokers will have you believe that you're throwing money away by renting, not true. I think you'll come out much further ahead. A great resource there, our friend Scott Trench's book, Set for Life, talks specifically about that and how he had people that he rented his house out to. He bought a house, rented to several people, and rode his bike to work. And by controlling his auto cost and his home cost, did a fantastic job. And it's funny how brands like Casper, man, that Casper CEO, not mincing any words, is he? He's like, they've been walking over their customers forever, and now it's time for us. That's fantastic. I love how I do these live, and my phone's ringing, and it's across the room, which always makes this fantastic. And I know who's calling me. See, you don't get this on those recorded shows, do you? The back to it. Let's get back into this. So that was funny. So and by the way, speaking of that, the reason why I'm getting called right now is because I'm in the process of purchasing a house and making sure that my budget is in order and I know exactly how much money I'm going to be able to afford is a big part of that. Also, knowing where your money comes from. It's interesting that the company's going to close 200 stores now after they declare bankruptcy. And it seems like if you're paying attention to the numbers, and this is why paying attention to your numbers is so important. We do these live on Facebook, by the way, and Peter is in our Facebook audience. By the way, if you want to be in our Facebook audience, head to facebook.com/iStackBenjamins, and we record these live. And Peter said it was you calling. I knew it was you, Peter, helping me with a house decision. Please stop calling me. You can see I'm sitting here trying to do a show, and I didn't turn my ringer off. Very, very big mistake. But paying attention to the numbers. You know, we said this a few days ago on the show that Sharon Lechter, the far less famous co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Sharon Lechter says, numbers tell a story. And you think that if Mattress Firm had been in front of those numbers earlier, they would have closed those stores earlier. I don't know. It's a thought. I'm not on the ground at Mattress Firm, so I don't know. Control your fixed costs, know the landscape, and that's our first headline. I'm definitely in the weeds here today. It's Eric. Hey, Eric. Eric says someone calling to sell me a mattress. Probably Casper representative saying thank you for the free advertisement, pal. Because Casper is on nearly every podcast I listen to, aren't they? Casper, come to Stack Your Benjamins. I think we had them for a little while back in December. But financial planning and mattresses, I'm not sure how well those two go along. Let's move on to our second piece today, which comes to us from Fast Company. Another interesting case analysis. This is an exclusive that they had. Katrina Broker wrote this. Tim Berners-Lee tells us his radical new plan to upend the World Wide Web. And so this is pretty interesting. When you think about the World Wide Web, you think more and more often about the big places you go. We're doing this on Facebook. Increasingly, people shop at Amazon, right? You can feel the internet kind of consolidating. More and more people using the same way to get to things. They go from Google to Amazon to Facebook to Instagram just a few little places, maybe Twitter, right? For some people. Let's dig into this, though. How's the World Wide Web going to change? Well, we'll tell you. Last week, Tim Berners-Lee, inventor of the World Wide Web, asked me to come and see a project he's been working on almost as long as the web itself. It's a crisp autumn day in Boston where Berners-Lee works out of an office above a boxing gym. After politely offering me a cup of coffee, he leads us into a sparse conference room. At one end of a long table is a battered laptop covered with stickers. Here on this computer, he's working on a plan to radically alter how all of us live and work on the web. Quote, "The intent is world domination," Berners-Lee says with a wry smile. The British-born scientist is known for his dry sense of humor, but in this case, he isn't joking. This week, Berners-Lee will launch Inrupt, a startup that he's been building in stealth mode for the past 9 months. Backed by Glasswing Ventures, its mission is to turbocharge a broader movement afoot among developers around the world to decentralize the web and take back power from the forces that have profited from centralizing it. In other words, it's game on for brands like Facebook, Google, and Amazon. For years now, Berners-Lee and other internet activists have been dreaming of a digital utopia where individuals control their own data and the internet remains free and open. But for Berners-Lee, the time for dreaming is over. Quote, that was me. "We have to do it now," he says, displaying an intensity and urgency that's uncharacteristic for this soft-spoken academic. It's a historical moment. Ever since revelations emerged that Facebook had allowed people's data to be misused by political operatives, Berners-Lee's felt an imperative to get this digital idol into the real world. In a post published this week, Berners-Lee explains he's taking a sabbatical from MIT to work full-time on Inrupt. The company will be the first major commercial venture built off of Solid, a decentralized web platform he and others at MIT have been spending years building. If all goes as planned, Inrupt will be to Solid what Netscape once was for many first-time users of the web, an easy way in. And like with Netscape, Berners-Lee hopes Inrupt will be just the first of many companies to emerge from Solid. Quote, "I've been imagining this for a very long time," said Berners-Lee. He opens up his laptop and starts tapping at his keyboard. Watching the inventor of the web work at his computer feels like what it might have been like to watch Beethoven compose a symphony. It's riveting, but hard to fully grasp. "We're in the solid work world now," he says, his eyes lit up with excitement. He pushes the laptop toward me so I too can see. On his screen, there's a simple-looking web page with tabs across the top, Tim's to-do list, his calendar, chats, address book. He built this app, one of the first on Solid, for his personal use. It's simple, spare. In fact, it's so plain that at first glance, it's hard to see its significance. But to Berners-Lee, this is where the revolution begins. The app, using Solid's decentralized technology, allows Berners-Lee to access all of his data seamlessly. His calendar, his music, videos, chat, research. It's like a mashup of Google Drive, Microsoft Outlook, Slack, Spotify, and WhatsApp. The difference here is that on Solid, all the information is under his control. Every bit of data he creates or adds on Solid exists within a Solid pod, which is an acronym for Personal Data Online Data Store. These pods are what gives Solid users control over their applications and information on the web. Anyone using the platform will get a Solid identity and Solid pod. This is how people, Berners-Lee said, will take back the power of the web from corporations. For example, one idea Berners-Lee is currently working on is a way to create a decentralized version of Alexa, Amazon's increasingly ubiquitous digital assistant. He calls it Charlie. Unlike with Alexa, on Charlie, people would own all their data. That means they could trust Charlie with, for example, health records, children's school events, or financial records. That's the kind of machine Berners-Lee hopes will spring up all over Solid to flip the power dynamic of the web from corporations to individuals. And then it goes on to what it means for developers. Exciting? I think it's pretty exciting. I also think we're a long way from completion on that one. And you obviously have some very deep pockets when you're talking about competing with Facebook, Amazon, and Google versus a decentralized group of internet developers. But that's the way the web started. That's the way Berners-Lee helped make that a reality. And now he's working on something completely 2.0. But there's a bigger aha here, I think, over the short term for you and I. I always think that's what they're working on, but what does that have to do with me? Here's what I think this has to do with you and me. The whole idea about this new internet experience is to take it and put it back into our hands as individuals. And yet, how much work have we done already to put it in our own hands? Like as an example, making sure that your will's done, your emergency fund is in place, looking online to see what people have said about you. We've had people on the Stacky Benjamin show talking about how to change your reputation, right? And there are things that you can do to change your online reputation. Taking back the conversation about you and putting you in charge of that conversation. I think there's a lot there. I think that controlling your story is a big part of winning. And I find that really interesting. Better tools always help. And I find this a compelling story, which is why I thought we'd feature it today. But that story's still a long ways away. But right in front of you is you controlling your own story. And that's our second headline. All right, gonna say quick hello to everybody hanging out with us today. We're doing this at an odd hour, not the time than when we usually are hanging out on the internet. So we've got Justin here. Hey, Justin. Ron, walking the dog, as we talked about before. We planned that perfectly for Ron. You're welcome. Jennifer's here. Colin is here. By the way, Ron says large furniture retail stores are gonna be the next to understand this reality. Totally agree. The way furniture's sold is difficult. It's funny walking into a furniture store with Cheryl recently. I could see a group of salespeople in the middle of the store, and then one kind of peels off. And as they're walking toward me, under my breath, and Cheryl was nudging me to stop doing it, but I went, dun 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 as the shark got closer. And then we had the cheesiest conversation ever with a furniture salesman. They could do a lot better. I totally agree, Ron, in that process. Colin's here, Peter's here, and good stuff. It's funny. Colin says, we're recording this early, and Michigan game on TV and Live Money in the morning. You know, Michigan State's on. That's all I got to say, Colin. Forget about Michigan game, Michigan State. And Michigan State, I know, is losing to Northwestern as we do this. Not my favorite, but they're going to rally. They'll probably win. I'll call it here. That's me hoping. Let's take just a second before we get to what we call our big idea, which is where we take these two headlines, put them together into what you can take for the rest of your day. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about my personal experience with Lemonade. Thanks to Lemonade for supporting Stacking Benjamins. I had the easiest time getting renter's insurance when we made our move. And it's funny because I've said this a bajillion times on here. And yes, bajillion, I'm sure, is a real number. Look it up. And if you don't find it, look it up harder. But I say it over and over. If it's going to take you very little time to get a different homeowner's quote, why don't you do it? And I get to see the stats of people that use our link. I see two stats, the number of people that watch or listen to the show. And then I also see the stats of the number of people going to Lemonade to get a quote because it's like super quick. And it amazes me the atrophy that we don't even get a quote. When it's super simple. We saved over 50%, 50, against the competitive bids that I got for our renter's insurance while we're here for a few months over Uncle Jack's garage. It was unbelievable. Your experience might not be, but if it's going to take you 90 seconds and you might be able to save a ton of money, why wouldn't you do that? And I'm not your mom. I'm not going to, rant longer than that, but how's Lemonade different? They're different because people like me rant about them, where most people don't love their insurance company. Because with most insurance companies, you fill out endless forms. Maybe you got to send them a fax. Welcome back to 1986. And when you need them most, what do? They just hike up your rate. Well, Lemonade's different. They're powered by artificial intelligence and behavioral economics. They've replaced brokers with bots and paperwork with algorithms. And what does that mean to you? That means you get a quote and then a policy in seconds, just starting at $5 a month. The best part, choose a charity to support, and Lemonade's going to donate your leftover premium money to the cause once a year. So from a necessary evil into a social good, who knew an insurance company would be so fun? And podcasters would be ranting about it. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade for more. If you use our link, by the way, that's how we keep the show going. So use our link, and then pretty soon I'll be bragging about how many people are clicking the link instead of how many people aren't clicking the link. And I'm not saying that for the show. I'm saying that because it seriously is 90 seconds and I use it. If you don't want to use it, great. But I'm just saying, if you haven't done a homeowner's quote in a while, probably a good place to go. All right, enough on lemonade. Let's talk about my next favorite topic, which is how do these two headlines go together, right? We talked about mattresses, and then we talked about a new experience on the internet and looking at controlling your big fixed cost and just controlling your story online. How do those two go together? And I think our big takeaway today, guys, the big idea for this show is that change is the only constant. And if you're planning your money, you can't cling too closely. Man, do I get in a lot of discussions, we'll call them, in Facebook groups, money-oriented Facebook groups with geeks who know just enough to be dangerous. And I say that usually lovingly, but it does frustrate me that people's whole plan, their whole plan is based on government loopholes or current trends with money or how they feel right now and thinking they're going to feel that way forever. You're going to feel differently in the future, and you should plan on that. The government's going to change the rules. And by the way, you should count on that too. And trends, well, the only thing I think that doesn't go out of style, I think, is good, solid advice. And mine today is to plan on change with an emergency fund that lets you be flexible, tax diversification that keeps you flexible, and also open ears so that you can hear the next change coming. That's our big idea today. That's our show for today. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Go stack some Benjamins. We'll see you next time back here at Money in the Morning.
Money in the Morning is created by Saul-Sehy and comes to your ears because of the collective genius of our producer, Rutter-Reese, engineer, Caden Thompson, and a pack of very well-trained ferrets here in the basement. You'll find links to all of our headlines featured on today's show in Joe's Twitter feed at @AverageJoeMoney. I know you already know this too, but Money in the Morning is for entertainment purposes only, and you shouldn't act on anything recommended by a bunch of entertainers in a basement without first consulting with your financial advisor and second, having your head examined. Have a headline you'd like us to discuss? Send them to joe@stackingbenjamins.com or put them on our Stacking Benjamins Basement closed Facebook group. This show is copyright 2018 Stacking Benjamins LLC, all rights reserved. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor Doug, and I reserve the right to always say, we'll see you next time back here on Money in the Morning.